Stream to connect. It looks like we're live. And perfect. Welcome everyone. This is a Restream powered broadcast. I'm going to see if we can get a browser window in here as well. Let's go to LinkedIn. See if we can get logged in. Of course, I'm not logged in on this computer. So let's take a look at if we can bring up something else here. Bring up learn.microsoft.com. Go. Let's see if we can share that window in the meeting successfully. We need permission. Okay, so I haven't given Teams permission to share. Need to do that, and then there's going to be a restart of Teams, which will probably disconnect my session. So we're going to try this here. Okay, so now we're going to see if it reconnects magically to our meeting. Hey, look at that, it worked. Okay, so now we should be able to share our screen. And if we're able to, you should be able to see our Microsoft Learn page here. Excellent, and we should be live on 5 platforms from Microsoft Teams. So I'm using Microsoft Teams on a Mac, iMac, and we can tell that because the Mac OS has added all these cool gestures that now show up if you're not using a virtual background. So if I turn on a virtual background, the effects are still there at a hardware level, but the issue is you don't really get to see them in their full effect. Let's turn this on. We'll do the same gesture here. You can kind of see the confetti fall on me or the fireworks around me. But for the most part, a virtual background, even a blur, seems to affect the view of some of these effects. So you can still somewhat see them, but they're best if you don't have a virtual background or a blur in your background. And Microsoft Learn has all sorts of information for preparing for different exams. And now you can actually use Microsoft Learn as part of the exam. So if you're preparing for the MS 700 exam, you know that you need to know quite a bit about Teams meeting and calling, Teams meetings and event experiences, Teams rooms and Surface Hub, configure, deploy, and manage Teams devices, plan for Teams phone. Probably less phone on MS 700 than there used to be, but there still is a bit of that on this exam. So I can take a look at the different learning paths, and for meetings and callings, which we're talking about here, setting up Teams to stream live to multiple platforms. We can take a look at auto attendance and call queues, meetings and events, overview, and look at features like webinars, town halls, live events. And we are actually just using a regular old Teams meeting, and then we are streaming through Restream to multiple platforms. So we can come up here and look at some other features. I could also record this meeting from a Teams perspective because I'm not recording it from the Teams side. I'm actually controlling it from the my mic is muted. That's why. So we have our transcript showing, and I'm sharing my screen within the meeting now. So if I switch over to my window where I've got what's going on Restream right now, I can pull that up to another screen, and we can see that we have our Teams meeting information here front and center. And if I can find my, where did I put my trackpad? There it is. Trackpad's easier to zoom in and out on so that we can see this a little more effectively in the stream that's going out to LinkedIn from a standpoint of the Microsoft Speakers Hub, Facebook, 2 YouTube channels, and then I think I'm also streaming to my Twitter account. Yes. So we're live on five platforms from Microsoft Teams, and we're using Microsoft Teams to do so with the help of Restream, a service that I've used before. And we can see that we've got captioning here, both live captions and then the transcript of our meeting. So with Copilot, I could also do a recap of this meeting at any point, and this becomes part of the meetings that I've held. You can see some of the meetings that I've held to test things over here within my Teams chat. And many of the things that I have been testing lately related to Teams are about the always show live captions and filter profane words. And this is because I discovered that Teams has some words in the, I guess, the proper noun dictionary, like Dick Clark. And interestingly enough, it doesn't appear that it's showing Dick Clark. Let's try it again. There we go. It's in the proper noun dictionary if you just say those two words in order. But it also looks like I'm getting that in the transcript, which is good. And then if I say a name like Dick Gregory, a famous comedian from the 60s, Dick, just as a word, is on the profane or the profanity list. And Dick Gregory is not in the proper noun list. So if I go back over to our Teams settings, so we clicked on the 3 dots in the upper right, we went to settings, we went to captions and transcripts. We turn off the profanity filter. we go back over to this window and we say Dick Gregory, that shows up. Dick Smith shows up, and anything else that might be considered profane will show up as well because we've just turned off the filter. What I found interesting is it looks like the transcript still has the profanity filter on. So if I say Dick Gregory, we don't see it. If I say Dick's Sporting Goods, that was put into the proper noun dictionary as well. So that shows up both on the right-hand side, which is the transcript, and in the middle, which is the live captions. So it's been interesting to see how maybe the profanity filter affects the transcript of a meeting versus the live captions of a meeting. So I guess the easiest way to test this would be to see where I said Dick Gregory in the transcript and see if Copilot can pick up on that, because if it's not in the transcript at all, Gregory is going to be in the transcript, but Dick Gregory isn't. Dick Gregory is a famous comedian from the 60s. He has several different comedy albums that came out. So if we do a search here for Dick Gregory, I'll introduce you. If you are unfamiliar with him, you may recognize him from a picture, whether you recognize him from his comedy or not. And I've been listening to Dick Gregory for years. Very, very funny comedian. Here is his Wikipedia page. But if this is not in, as I said, the transcript, Copilot is going to have a hard time figuring out who I'm talking about. So we could say, summarize the meeting notes about Dick Gregory. Let's see what happens here. Now, if it can get to this and it's just not being shown in viewing the transcript, we'll be fine. Yeah, and so it does look like Copilot has access to it. This means the transcript has access to it. So we can see several different items related to Dick Gregory there, and we're going to give this a huge thumbs up because that is going to testing the profanity filter feature in Microsoft Teams. Then share my prompt. Generated response is fine. And this will give me the information about the fact that we can still see the Dick Gregory information and pull that out from a Copilot perspective, because that's going to be crucial going forward. If we miss this meeting, we wonder, what did Dan share about Dick Gregory? I haven't heard of him. And you can think of other situations where if it can't find somebody's name in the transcript, that's going to be really critical from a standpoint of Copilot being able to do its job effectively. So the first name Dick shows up if we turn off the profanity filter. If we turn back on the profanity filter, so we have to get back to Teams, go back here and flip back on the profanity filter. Now, Dick should not show up in the transcripts at all. And I'm assuming the transcripts and the live transcription. So let's take a look here. So if we go to the record and transcribe, show transcript, we can see that when I say Dick now, it's still showing up as asterisks. And the issue there is that it isn't being shown, I think, either place now that I've turned on the profanity filter. So we've turned on the profanity filter, and if I say a word like shit, that is also on the profane list. And I can see why, right? I was looking at the comments from when they introduced the profanity filter feature, and it sounded like people in the UK were getting some really interesting results from having the profanity filter turned, I think it was off. So in Teams, I believe there's a place to change your language. It might be under Appearance and Accessibility. Let's see, here we go. English, United States. So if we switch our language in Teams, which I think we can do on the fly, to the United Kingdom, looks like we do have to save and restart. Let's go ahead and see if we need to switch this. I don't think we do. We leave that as English. And then we can do a save and restart. Sorry, I was muted again. Came in muted, even though I'm the only one in the meeting. And we should be using the UK version of English now. So I was reading a note about when you say filter, they were getting some creative spellings of that earlier. And what were the other two examples? Let's look that article up because it was in the comments of the article. Teams, profanity, filter, feature. We'll find the control, profanity filtering. Pull up this article and we'll see what the other two words were because they escaped me. They were either in this article or they were in the article where this was announced. I think this was the announcement, and then this was it's in Teams, not in preview. So we'll bring up the other article and see if this is the one with the comments. This is the related one. Scroll on down through. Then this is the one that had the examples: check, draft, and filter. I can kind of get check being different if you're using UK English, which I believe should be in effect now, but I'm not seeing those spellings differently. So we go to the three dots in Teams settings. We go down to appearance and accessibility, was it? English, United Kingdom, translate messages into language, and how to handle other languages, and never translate. I don't think I see the UK version of English in these lists. So I'm not translating necessarily, I'm just looking for what happens with the filters and the language use. If we say organization, that's another word that would be spelled differently in the US versus in the UK. And it looks like it's using the English version, US English version of organization still, for both my captioning and for my transcript. So now that I have the profanity filter turned on, we shouldn't be seeing Dick Smith or Dick Russell or any other Dick name that's not in the proper noun dictionary. So Dick Sporting Goods is there, Dick Clark is there, and if we say Dick Clark and it gets it, that is shown, and then Dick Van Dyke is also in the proper noun dictionary, but it looks like it needs to see those as 3 words, not 2 words. Dick Van Dyke. There we go. So now we have him in the transcript as well. Now if I say from a Copilot perspective, let's do another test. Here's another trick in Teams that you might not be aware of. I can hit the Control plus in this window, and I can make things bigger in this window, and Control minus. I have suggested to Microsoft that might be something to think about on the More menu or somewhere within this window, because Control minus, or on a Mac, Command minus and Command plus are not documented anywhere on this window that I can see for making your transcript bigger, your Copilot window font bigger or smaller, depending on what you need to do in your meeting. So in Copilot, I can say summarize action items for Dick Russell. And if Dick Russell is in the transcripts, it's going to be able to figure that out. There are no action items for Dick Russell in this transcript. It was mainly about testing the profanity filter, and Dick Russell isn't in the transcript because I believe it's being filtered out of the Copilot transcript. So now this has gone from a convenience, right? Hey, my name's Dick Smith, and it's a little frustrating that my name's not in the transcript of meetings, and it's not shown if somebody's using closed captioning. And I'm sure there's plenty of people named Dick that could relate to this. But if it now also doesn't understand what Dick Smith or Dick Russell have been assigned, Dick Smith is going to take notes today, and Dick Russell is going to go ahead and provide us a recap on LinkedIn of this meeting. So Dick Russell is going to help us with our LinkedIn posts related to this, and Dick Smith is going to go ahead and produce the transcript or do something with the transcript. Now let's take a look at, with Copilot, what were Dick Smith and Dick Russell's action items. I believe both of those names I haven't used with the profanity filter turned off. I've only used it with the profanity filter turned on. Can't chat about this. Recap the meeting and action items for Dick Smith and Dick Russell. We're saying their names over and over here. And then let's see if the Copilot can find anything related to it. Dick Smith is going to take notes today. Dick Russell is going to help with LinkedIn posts related. So maybe Copilot is smart enough to figure this out, even if the transcript isn't containing those names, which is interesting. That's good to see. This would have gone from inconvenient, or maybe, a nice to have, to an absolute if Dick Smith and Dick Russell aren't in the capabilities that we see with Copilot. So it does appear that we get at least those two words in our transcript and then in our AI, which is good. We'll use that as a thumbs up reaction. And this is giving Microsoft feedback on how Copilot is operating. So happy to see that the name Dick is being either transcribed or available to Copilot. It is struck from the live captions and the view of the transcript, but appears to be available to Copilot. And we will share the prompt. And I'll do some more research on that. We could also ask, let's see, how would I ask this for any profanities uttered in the meeting? I'm just curious what Copilot will do if it already knows this is the subject of the meeting. Maybe it can figure out what we may have said that was profane or inappropriate. Yep, there we go. Speaker said the words blank and blank several times while testing the profanity filter. That is hilarious. So let's give them feedback on that. Interesting that Copilot doesn't show me the profane words, but knew I said them several times in the meeting. So giving Microsoft some of that feedback is an important part of being a MVP, just testing different things and figuring out what works and what doesn't work and what maybe customers have brought to our attention as, hey, did you know this doesn't work? I came across the Dick example because Dick's Sporting Goods came to me last year as a trainer and an MVP through a partner and said, hey, we're trying to be inclusive. We're trying to use closed captioning and features in PowerPoint as well as Teams. And in PowerPoint, these words don't even show up, period. So if we go over to our PowerPoint and we open a blank presentation and we type in Dick's Sporting Goods Q2 results or Q1 results and Q2 forecast as our title slide. We're going to get a designer set of recommendations here. And interesting that we get tennis, but we don't get pickleball yet, I don't think. But, you know, I'm not too concerned about what is in the slides. I just want to make sure I'm using subtitles when I go in to present this. Let's put in a second slide so we can actually switch to another slide. Let's put in Dick's Sporting Goods. I know they sell tennis, they sell pickleball, they have a lot of golf, they have fishing, What other departments are upstairs? There's shoes. There's bikes. Lots of stuff that we could talk about. And so if we go to slideshow, play from start, we'll switch these displays, and now we've got the closed captioning on. And what the closed captioning should be doing, if I bring up my other window and take a look at if we're able to see this, looks like we are. What I should be seeing here in the PowerPoint transcript is the words that are being said. And what was happening was Dick Gregory, Dick Clark, Dick Smith, Dick Russell weren't necessarily showing up in the transcripts. Let's see if I can get the transcript working here again. Interesting. It looks like it's kind of working and then it's not working. This could be that PowerPoint is not hearing my voice, which it should be. See if there's anything else we can do here with turning on closed captioning and see if the titles will appear again. Not getting them on the slide here. They are turned on. Let's see if we can see anything about the audio device that PowerPoint is using. If there is a setting here about what it's using for the audio. I don't see anything there. Try it one more time and see if we get the closed captioning. What was happening for me though was when you were using Dick Gregory, instead of putting in asterisks or D in asterisks, it was just ignoring the word entirely. So Dick's Sporting Goods would show up in the closed captioning as sporting goods. And so I reported that to Microsoft and they put it in as a proper noun. That was the fix for that particular example. So the other thing that I have discovered in testing that is the singular and the plural of that particular first name. And in some situations, it could be used possessive. So I could say Dick's laptop isn't working. Well, if I'm in a Teams meeting and I have the profanity filter turned on and I say Dick's laptop isn't working, I would think that it's not showing up, but it is here. So let's take a look and make sure that I still have the profanity filter on. Maybe it's smart enough to realize that I'm talking about Dick's desktop. There we have an example that's not working. Dick's desktop computer. Okay, so if it interprets it as a apostrophe S, it looks like it's working. So the profanity filter must still be on. But you get the idea. We can think of situations, especially with the four-letter word, that we would want Dick Smith's laptop showing up and Dick Smith's desktop isn't working. Can you go look at it? It looks like either of those examples, because the first word isn't right next to the noun, it's not picking up the fact that it is a apostrophe S, or that the first name should be shown. The fix for now would be you go into your Teams application. So I can go over to Teams, go to the captions and transcripts, turn off the profanity filter. And now when I say Dick Smith's laptop, we get whatever I'm saying. Bad words, good words, everything shows up in the transcript now. Now it would be interesting to ask the same question of Copilot with the profanity filter turned off. What profane words were included in this meeting so far. Let's see if we get the little asterisks or, sorry, it looks like I can't respond to this. What words were on the profanity list in Teams? See if we can pick that up. There we go. So it does appear that there are some asterisks in the transcript because it can pick that up. But it was interesting that it can pick up action items for Dick Smith from our meeting so far. Now, if Dick Smith is part of the meeting transcript, he's going to take notes. He's going to produce something with the transcript. We're also going to have Dick fix his laptop. Dick Smith's laptop isn't working. And so Dick Smith should take his laptop to the help desk, and hopefully the help desk can reimage the laptop for Dick Smith. Our help desk is on the 3rd floor, and all of this information should be part of the transcript for the meeting, so that when we talk about Dick Smith's laptop not working, we should be able to figure out what the help desk is going to do. A summary of action items for the help desk. Let's see if it can figure out what we want the help desk to do. Now the profanity filter is off, so Dick Smith's laptop shows up in the transcript. And we can see if the help desk information is provided here. The only action item for the help desk was mentioning that they're supposed to reimage hyphen Smith's laptop, which is not working well. So this is interesting. It seems that sometimes Copilot can figure things out, and sometimes Copilot is still respecting the profanity masking of the first name. So something for Microsoft to consider, is this a word that is used more often in profanity or more often in referring to somebody's first name? And I'm not going to be able to make a decision on my own, but bringing it to Microsoft's attention and its implications from a standpoint of Copilot might be the interesting lens today to look at it versus a year ago when I'm sure they were just looking at the word and its use and not necessarily thinking about transcript or AI generated transcripts, figuring out what was going on with it. So pretty neat feature from a standpoint of Copilot. And thanks for joining me for this session. We're going live from Teams, Microsoft Teams, through the connection to several different online platforms. So we're on the Microsoft Speakers Hub, we're on YouTube, 2 channels, we're on, I think this will show up as a cool little effect on my Mac, works in iOS as well. And then we're on a Twitter account for me, and we're on Facebook as well. So if we're live on all 5 of those platforms, you're going to have an opportunity to see some of the new features in Microsoft Teams that have come out in the last year, and potentially some examples of Copilot in Microsoft Teams summarizing a meeting. And so we can do action items for Dick Smith. This will be our final example of Copilot. Take notes today, produce something from the transcript, take his laptop to the help desk on the 3rd floor and have it reimaged. Perfect. So at least from Copilot's perspective, whether or not it's in the transcript, Copilot seems to have a grasp on this being somebody's name and there being some action items for this person, which is what I wanted to test. So with that, everyone, I'm going to go ahead and turn off our streaming, and the easiest way to do that is from the, so I can share this so you can see it here. We go to the meeting window, we go to more. This is where I'm recording the meeting and the transcript. But under custom streaming is where I'm streaming out to restream, so I can stop streaming from here. Thanks for joining me. Have a wonderful day.